So I thought it would be a good idea to introduce you to the book in terms of what are you getting when you have the electronic file. If you open it, you see it's a PDF file, and in my case, it opens in the Adobe Acrobat Pro. Now, there's a reason why it's a PDF file, and this is part of why I give you this little tutorial. So if you open it, what you see is a little bit depending on your preferences that you set here in this particular program. But I see the first page. Now that's pretty much the cover page for a potential paper version that I might issue in the forthcoming weeks or months. But I would just want to show you why I think the PDF is the preferred format. So first of all, you have a nice overview. So if you open the bookmarks, right, you see that all the sections, chapters, subsections, and so on are here. But since it's a long book, so you see it's about 430 pages, that might be a little bit overwhelming and you have to scroll down a lot. So then you go into the bookmarks here and say collapse all. So essentially then have a nicely structured table of contents. And then you can go whatever to the Bitcoin white paper, see like the structure of the paper, some thoughts about the title and how it was typeset. And so you can very quickly jump to a particular section if you don't want to read from start to end, or if you have done that and just want to look up something more specifically. Then you have, of course, a search function. Let's say you were to look for the Times headline, right? Then, as you're used to, it goes through the document and you can just see where you are. You can easily then jump back here to the start. And then if you look at this here, for example, if that is too small to read, for example, in my case, you can press Control 2, and then you have the page width kind of view. You can set it here in this part. Okay, and then whatever, if you see here in this example, so typically if I use certain terminology, I linked this directly to, in most cases, the Wikipedia page. So if you click on this, then the browser will open up and go to that page. And then you go back and can read it. There's actually a lot of references. So if you go down here, you see that is about 3,400 references. So this is impossible to read. It's more like a database, right? And in the database, you see that everything is kind of linked. So if you happened to go to whatever, wanted to know what a digital twin is, you can click on here and it will open that page directly. So these are text integrated and reference integrated hyperlinks, right? Which makes it very useful as a searchable database. Now, if you go back and then, so you have these text integrated hyperlinks, the external hyperlinks, right? You also have like things like see above. So there's anchors in the text. Let's say you were reading this here, and then I say, look, there's more on this and some other location in the text. I decided to include it as see above. I mean, I didn't really go into to page numbers or section names because that would essentially like make the document even larger than it already is. So click on above, right, and it takes you to that particular section. And then if you click Alt back or the back button, then you are back to where we were. Right, so this is very useful, and I think the PDF is actually the optimum format to kind of include all this function. Thank you very much for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, please click the like button, and also please subscribe to my channel if you want to have further updates on this very fascinating topic. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you what you're getting if you have the electronic file of my book. Well, first of all, if you open it, this is what you see. So I opened it, and it might look quite different in your specific browser and preference settings. But here I open it, and in the Adobe Acrobat Pro, and you get the title page, which pretty much looks like the title page of a book that I might issue as a paper version in the upcoming weeks or month. Now, you have bookmarks, right? So if you click on this here, you get the entire list of chapters, sections, subsections, and so on. But because it's a long book, it has a total of 432 pages. That might be very overwhelming. So I usually collapse all these bookmarks, and then you arrive at a very neatly sorted list of chapters, right? And then you can go back and say, if I'm interested, let's say in the Bitcoin white paper, then only that one opens, and you can collapse it again like this. Of course, this is also searchable. If you click in my browser, Control F, right, then you can search whatever blockchain, and then we'll take you there. And you can, I mean, that will be quite a frequent term here in the thing. So you have it at a lot of occasions, right? But if you have a more specific term, like a special name or so, then you arrive very, very quickly at the point that is hopefully then of your interest, right? Then you see, okay, the total, if you go directly to the references, right, you see that the text from here just to the start of the reference, so pretty much the main text, is 280 pages. So that's a lot of text. And if you go to the end of the references, you see we have about 3,400 references. So now that's of course very much, and it's not, it's actually more like a database than meant to be read. So every time you bounce into one of these references, let me just go here on the widescreen view. You can set that here in your view, like how you want the page displayed and so on. That depends a little bit on which program you use to browse the PDF file, right? You can go here, let's say to Bitcoin. Then you can, usually the references are numbered. So instead of you then jumping from here to there and finding it, you can just click on the three, and you have here the definition of Bitcoin. And then throughout the book, I try to link, because we have so much different terminology and all of us have a different background. So I made sure I tried to include everything. So I guess most of you would know about Bitcoin. But just as an example here, you click on this link, right? And then you are at the, usually it's a Wikipedia entry of this thing. And if you go back to the browser, you're here. And then if you are in that window, an Alt back button just navigates you back to here, right? And then if you have more like a, let's just jump randomly somewhere. If I want to use something that's not a Wikipedia entry, let's say here a journal paper, that's number 1144. So you go here, you go to 1144, and there's, for example, a DOI that you can then retrieve with your browser. Or if you have an HTTP thing, you can click on that one. You have to give the permissions essentially, and then you arrive at the page that I referenced. Okay, then there's also something, so you can imagine that there's a lot of jumping forth and back. So you might be in this chapter and then say, look, we earlier on discussed that and that. So for that, let me see, you will find kind of a lot of things like see above or below, right? So let's go to somewhere here. So, for example, the Bitcoin Genesis block had been discussed before, right? So I'm not going to repeat all that. I just add the new stuff that is relevant to that particular section. And if you then click on above, you get to the section of the Genesis block. And again, if you push Control Alt, the back arrow, then you're back to that point here, right? And again, here, 1122, you go here, And well, this doesn't have an HTML or like an external reference because I didn't have one. But you see here for most stuff, you actually have this, right? So that's pretty much it. So I hope you see the point why a PDF file makes most sense for this particular book.